Well, welcome to the Eastmans podcast. I'm Mike Eastman, your host. Today I have one of, if not the best elk killing machines I know, and probably one of the best hunters on the planet alive today. So, Dan Pickar, Montana boy, living in Wyoming now. Welcome to God's country. And so just tell us a little bit about childhood, who you are, where you went to school, just what you want us to know a little bit about Dan.
It's funny that you asked that because I pay attention to this stuff so much more now that I have a little boy, 2-year-old boy. I'm like, well, how was I raised, or what would my dad do in this situation? I have a different perspective now.
And some of it's like, oh, I'm doing the same thing he did. Some of it's like, I'm not going to react the way my parents did.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, now I see why they did react that way.
Exactly. And then I find out I'm thinking too far ahead because he's only 2.
Yeah.
But as a new dad, I think you find yourself like, well, how am I going to do this when I encounter this situation with him? How am I going to discipline him?
Yeah.
How was I disciplined?
Yeah.
And so that kind of leads me to, the question. But I grew up in the country. We didn't have heat in the house. We heated our house with wood my whole entire life.
One wood stove.
One wood stove downstairs.
It was hot in one spot and not in the other.
Exactly. But hey, those naps by the wood stove, those were money in the wintertime.
Yeah.
They're awesome. It was funny. My dad,
to this day, if you get a little sun on you, you fall asleep.
Exactly. That's probably
I've
what
seen
it is. It's true. I'll fall asleep like that.
Yeah.
That's true. My dad's like, you know how much money we saved in 30 years of burning wood and not having a heating bill? And I was like, no, Dad, what was it? He's like, $50,000. Well,
okay.
That's a lot, I guess.
I mean, what's our time spent that we did to get all that wood?
Exactly. A lot of effort.
Nobody lost a finger, thankfully, or that $50,000 just become really expensive.
Exactly. But then you think about it, and I'm like, man, kids have it so easy nowadays. And it's like, maybe how I raised wasn't so bad after all. But when I was in that time frame, when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, we did 8 cords of wood a summer. Whew. And it was hell.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it.
That's a lot of work.
It is. It is. And it paid because I grew up on 10 acres in the country, and we just cut wood on our property.
So you guys didn't have to go. There was just go to the back 10 acres
and
cut a tree.
There's always deadfall, right? And in Northwest
Montana. It must have been really timbered then.
Yes.
You couldn't do that here in Wyoming.
No.
You'd burn it one winter and be standing around. It'd look like a clear cut.
You cherish the one tree that you have. Like, keep growing.
Exactly.
Put a fence around it so the deer don't get after it. But yeah, up there, I mean, those trees grow so fast. And we had a lot of good wood, larch, pine, Doug fir, all the good stuff up there. And so it made it worthwhile, just like hunting was worthwhile, back in the day too. You hear that, guys are like, well, I feed my family on wild game because it's cost effective.
Right.
And it's not.
No. As they're pulling 2 side-by-sides in a camper and
the gear, the
14
guns,
head of horses. And
yes. But growing up, we never bought one piece of meat from the grocery store besides bacon. Of course, if you don't buy bacon, then
you're not American.
You're not American. You're not living.
Yeah. That's just not a way I want to live.
Exactly. It's wrong. It's against my religion. So
like opposite a Jew, I have to have bacon.
Exactly.
Kosher or not.
It's required. It's like 6 on their list. But no, we grew up on wild game, but we shot white-tailed deer in the yard. And cool. It was cost effective though.
Yeah.
And so we killed a ton of deer over the years on our property, from the house, behind the house, 5-minute walk behind the house. We grew up next to indefinite amounts of Forest Service land, the Swan Range.
Oh, okay.
So we could hike up the mountain and go hunting and go as far as you want.
You had a lot of listeners and a lot of people's dream.
Absolutely.
Growing up like that.
Absolutely.
TV, what is that?
Yeah. And we did watch TV. And so that's funny you bring this up. So naturally, as a child, and it's just a human being thing too, you gravitate, you want the things that you can't have.
Yeah.
Or that your parents say you can't have.
Right.
So what did I want to do? I wanted to play Nintendo and I wanted to watch football.
Yeah.
And my dad wanted to always limit me watching TV and football and no Nintendo.
Right.
So that's what I wanted to do. And instead, we put up wood all summer. And I mean, you name it. You live out in the country, there's always chores to do.
Right.
We raised chickens. We had a garden. You're busy outside.
Yeah.
And so we lived off the land, you could say, probably growing up as a kid in the 90s in the Flathead Valley. And man, being an adult now and having my own child, it's like, well, how can I match that environment that I grew up in? Because I was so fortunate and we were so lucky.
It was so unique. Even
So
then
unique.
it was unique.
Yeah, absolutely. And even more so now, I think it's even more unique. And I'm so grateful for that childhood. Me and my brother were so lucky.
Yep.
Unbelievably lucky.
I heard your mom say at one time that I think Brandon asked, well, how was it raising these two boys? And she said, it was an absolute blessing and an adventure. I was like, God bless her. I can't imagine.
Yep.
Well, I can. We grew up very similar, actually. You and I and Guy and I grew up very similar.
Yep.
We didn't have TV. I didn't know what a Nintendo was, and did the same thing. Grew up on the land, and our playground was outside.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And we did crazy shit.
Oh, I'll bet.
I mean, for lack of better terms, that nowadays it's like if you have stories too. I mean, it's part of growing up in the 80s and 90s.
Well, yeah, look back and go, how did one of us not die?
Exactly. Or lose an eye.
Or yeah, we still have limbs.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Nobody lost a thumb. Well, actually, one of our friends did, but it was a firecracker incident. Back before they put regulations on those.
Yep.
So I have heard stories. You talk about you and your brother, just outside doing crazy shit. I heard you guys, one of the things I heard your mom say is they were always outside. They were always hunting stuff and filming stuff. Mm-hmm. So even back then you were filming stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When we were kids, some of the first videos we watched were Trophy Antelope, Volume 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, my dad's.
With Mike, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I filmed a lot of those.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I even when I first started working here, I talked to Bertie, and I was like, that buck flare? Like, I remember all that stuff from a kid.
Yeah, stovepipe.
Oh, yeah, all that stuff. And so we grew up watching Eastmans as kids, and we always liked the Real Tree Monster Bucks, those videos, hunting deer, because we had whitetails in the yard, so we could really connect that. Mm-hmm. But probably because of Mike's videos, we began hunting antelope every year when we were old enough, going out to eastern Montana. So that was a big part of it. But it's just like typical kids that, were in that environment and we were into hunting. I mean, my dad, he raised us hunting. We didn't know any different when we were 2, 3, 4 years old. I mean, one of the first experiences I can remember, we moved to the Flathead Valley. It was 1991, I believe, so I would have been 4 years old, and we were down on the Flathead River bottom, and my brother, my dad, and I sat by this tree, and our friend was going to do a deer drive. We did drives, in the
Back
thick
in
stuff.
the drive day.
Oh, yeah, in that thick country. And he drove some deer to us, and my dad shot a doe in the head at 10 feet in front of us, and it was so close, it died right in front of us, and it sprayed my brother in the face with blood. Like when he shot it. And like he had these dots of blood on his face. And of course I took cover. I ducked. Maybe I'm the smarter one. I don't know. He got the better view though.
You threw him in front of you as a human
Probably,
shield.
Yeah. But those are the memories that I had as a really young kid.
Yeah.
And so that was normal. The watching the hunting videos was normal. Squirrel hunting. We had squirrels out our back door. You can imagine what I was like when I was a little kid.
Oh,
with
I can't imagine.
A pellet gun, blowgun, you name it. I was always hunting it.
Is it open? Yep. Get after it.
Yeah, and I know, and that was probably one of those things too. My dad was always like, no squirrels around the house. I like them. He's like, I like to watch them. And so that made me want to do it even more. So my dad goes to town. I go squirrel hunting.
Wonder what ever happened to Peter the squirrel. I don't know.
Yeah.
He hasn't been around a while.
Yeah, but that's kind of where my fascination for bow hunting and how the broadhead works started. Because with a blowgun, I'd shoot squirrels with like a wire dart, and it'd stick them, and it wouldn't
poke a hole.
It wouldn't kill them.
Yeah.
If you had to hit them like through the heart or through the head or whatever to kill them perfectly. But then I started making my own darts with like disposable razors.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I would cut blades off and I'd JB weld them to a dart, and then I would shoot a squirrel with my blowgun, and they're dead within seconds. And that just blew my mind. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is a quick, clean kill. Like, there's no chasing.
Yeah.
You know, with the other darts or BB guns,
Running
you're
off
always
and-
chasing them. You're running off. You hardly ever get them anyway.
Yeah.
But if you could get close enough with a blowgun, it was a very quick kill. And that fascinated me.
So you were messing around with the engineering of how broadheads fly and
Absolutely. Ever since I was little.
wow.
Like, I just had a
So
fascination.
you went down the road of the blowgun, not the pellet gun, or was it just like
It was
pellet
both.
gun? BB guns are easy.
Hey, and this is, there you go, because this is how my hunting life evolved as a teenager too. Pellet guns became easy,
Yeah.
and yeah, you could kill them. 22s, of course.
Yeah.
It's no problem. But I wanted to make it a little more challenging, get closer,
Yeah.
and then that's where the blowgun came in, and that's how I evolved later in life too. As a teenager, was rifle hunting, and then believe it or not, I was really into waterfowl for 5 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when in high school, that's all I could think about was duck hunting. I quit archery season. Like, when waterfowl season opened, I was done bow hunting.
Which was in the middle of October in Montana. That's still
October
open.
2nd, I think, that first week. But yeah, I was done.
Wow.
Like, I'm going waterfowl hunting.
Wow.
And then that kind of was, I mean, it's still fun, and I still enjoy it to this day. But I shot a lot of ducks, and we did a lot of dumb stuff, fell through the ice and did some dumb stuff. And then I was like, I want to do something more of a challenge. And so then that's where, and I had bow hunted at the time. I was bow hunting at the time, but it probably helped that once I got that first taste of success, I wanted to do it even more because the challenge was so great.
Yeah.
And the satisfaction of a clean kill at the end was so much more rewarding than just shooting another duck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and duck hunting, bird hunting is really good for high school kids that you don't have a huge fascination of the process. You just want to shoot stuff.
Yeah.
I just want to kill stuff.
Yep.
I want to take it, kill it, drag it home, and that's bird hunting. That's 5 ducks, 1,700 snow geese, whatever it is.
Yep.
And you drag it home, do it, and do it again tomorrow.
It's action.
Oh, yeah.
It's action.
100%.
And that's what kids need, I think. And,
Yes.
And I'm glad that's how I progressed through the stage of hunting through the years, because probably when I was 12, I really started into the waterfowl hunting, and I thought it was just so great. I love to watch them fall from the sky when you're shooting them and all that.
Well, you're a huge part. People don't really realize, but you're a huge part of Wingman, our
Yep.
bird hunting brand. You're a huge part, mostly behind the camera.
Yep.
One of the best camera guys in that arena for sure.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is, growing up and as teenagers, that's what we did. And my camera guy, Tim, he films for you and Guy.
Yeah.
That's what we did back then. And he would follow me around with a camera, whether it was fly fishing, whether it was duck hunting. We grew up in Boy Scouts together. We did all this stuff together. It didn't matter what we were doing. Once again, we filmed everything as kids, and it progressed all the way into teenage years. And Tim's like, yeah, I'll video. And Tim.
Oh, yeah.
He's not the one to go out there and go hunting on his own and, challenge himself. It's just not how he's wired. But it's a social thing for him. If you're going, or if you're going to do this, he'll go. And frankly, I think when we were kids, it was entertainment for him because I was a little wild man.
Yeah.
And so he'd laugh his ass off at me.
And
when I'm
Tim
out
is
there in
quiet,
video.
doesn't say anything.
Oh, yeah.
Very reserved.
Yeah. But he thought it was, I think I was quality entertainment because I was an idiot back then. He's like, this is fun to watch.
I'm getting a front row seat to this shit show.
Exactly. And so it's just funny how it evolved over the years, because that's how it started, and the progression of, how I ended up getting into bow hunting and ultimately guiding, right? Before I started working here, is I just wanted to hunt as much as I can and as many places as I could. And I was like, well, how can I do that? Well, I can be a guide. I just got out of college, and that's a whole nother rabbit trail we can go down or not.
Well, you did go to college.
Yeah.
And you actually you have a political science degree, right?
I do. Yep.
And you actually ran for an office.
Yep. State Senate.
Unsuccessfully, but you did it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you know what? I'm just going to guide. And that's where, when you came to us to film, you were a pretty much a seasonal guy. Like, you'd guide and guide hunting and guide fishing and just living the seasonal life.
Yep.
And we convinced you to come on board and move to God's country, and that's really interesting. So, what in guiding? What is your number one rule if you were to say, okay, you're going to go on a guided hunt? Make sure you do this. Do you have one?
Yeah. And you'll hear about outfitters complaining about this all the time. I don't care who you talk to. Their hunters can't shoot.
Yeah.
And so the number one thing is shoot your rifle, spend time with your rifle, know your rifle.
In different situations. Just don't go sit at a bench.
Yep. Yep.
Because I've never seen a bench in the field.
Exactly. All the positions, prone, sitting,
Sticks.
standing, sticks, you name it, all the positions that you could possibly think of what you're going to encounter in the field, practice them. Because as a guide, you see everything.
Yeah.
And that's the number one thing, bottom line, shooting ability.
Yep. That's great advice.
Yep.
Great advice. So you work here at Eastmans. Been here, what, 7, 8 years?
9.
9 years. Golly.
Do you know this fall is going to be my 10th fall?
Yes, I did actually know that.
Yeah,
No, I
2013.
had no idea. I thought it was 7.
Time flies, huh?
It does.
It's
10
crazy.
years. My gosh.
I feel like an old timer here now.
Do you really?
Like I've grown up a lot. Like
You have?
I've spent a third of my life here, Ike.
That really makes me feel old, Dan, because I'm significantly older than you.
And that was basically from what, 24, 25, because I'm 35 now. But the 18 to 24, 25, you're floundering in the guide seasonal stuff like we talked. And so that was kind of a short time.
Yeah.
6 years. And then before that is just childhood and school.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome.
yeah,
Well,
it's cool.
we're happy to have you. You've started a couple things here. Beyond the Grid, which is our YouTube series. That really came as a brainchild and came to fruition with you as the primary host and a lot of the creative behind it. And for those that haven't seen it, get on YouTube, check it out. It's got 1.5 billion views. I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot. You have one episode that you filmed, guy hunting in Tajikistan's go over 1 million, right?
Yeah, 1.5 million now, I think.
Yeah.
I think we're over 6 million now.
Is it?
Something like that.
It's a
4
lot.
or 6, somewhere in
It's
there.
a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And every time you guys come out with one, about 8 to 10 episodes a year, and they're spread out.
Yep.
So, been on the TV show as a regular archery guy.
Yep.
Every other week, either you or Brian or one of us knuckleheads.
Yep.
So tell us about your new thing, your newest thing you've done the last 12 months here. I'm baiting you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Into taking this on. It wasn't quite your brainchild, but you took it on and learned a lot.
Yeah. It was kind of weird how it evolved. I mean, we talked about like a guide school and whatnot in the past, but it never really developed. And we just talked about it. And it was kind of on the table, but it's not. It was like, okay, when we all have time,
right? Yeah, nobody's gonna focus on it. Nobody's gonna do it.
Right. Right. But then, Brian came forward and he kind of had a format idea, and then we kind of
he wanted to write a book.
Yeah,
the whole thing is he wanted to write a book. I was like, I think this is 5 years ago. I think print's kind of dead.
Yeah,
but book print's not. It's not, but it's not what it used to be.
Right. So it turned into an online course, an online mule deer course, and which is kind of the direction that things are going now anyway.
Yeah,
or online
absolutely.
courses, and
learn when you want.
No, exactly, at your fingertips on your phone, your desktop, wherever you are in the world, you can be on this course and learning about a lesson or a topic.
And the first one is mule deer.
Yep.
Mule deer.
The mule deer online course. Was a pretty, what's the best word? Maybe strenuous.
It's
mentally
extensive. It's extensive.
Yes, strenuous and extensive.
Lots of lessons learned.
Yeah.
I mean, not about mule deer, but just how to put it together.
I don't have any background in it, but once again, if you have a little ambition, you can find anything on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Or find somebody that is educated, which JML was a huge part.
Yep.
With researching and testing and getting a learning system to do what we wanted it to do.
Right.
And that was probably the hardest part, because you have a vision of how it's going to go, but until you can, figure out how to make it do what you want to do, it's not going to happen. And so it evolved on how we are going to display and present the information, for sure.
And most of it's tutorials, chunks. How many chapters is it?
Yeah, we're up to 14
chapters.
lessons.
Okay.
Yep. And then there's topics under each lesson.
Okay. For some reason, I was thinking 100 something, but
that's the topics. There's
okay.
over 100 topics. There's so many topics.
Yeah. And it's tutorials, and then video that is talking heads plus. I mean, it's actually, you talk about some behavior this deer's doing, and we have video of that deer doing that behavior, so you know exactly what it looks like, which is a lot more intuitive, or a lot more, I think it's a higher value than just a book, because it's hard to, you know, you can let the person's imagination go for a while, but until you actually see what a 170 buck looks like, not just a photo, but you know, it moving around, that's a whole lot different.
Absolutely. And that's the one thing I wanted to focus on with this course. Not only the gear and the ins and outs with e-scouting and all the necessities, the building blocks to becoming a good deer hunter, but what really propelled me into becoming an efficient hunter was being a guide. Because you're getting all those repetitions, right? That's what it is. That's all it is. Hunting, successful hunting is just repetitions. If you can figure out a way to do it a lot, and hopefully eventually become successful a lot, it becomes easier and easier. Just like with anything. If you want to be a good free throw shooter, shoot a ton of free throws every day. Anybody can do it if you want to spend the time on it. And so that's what the mule deer course is intended to do, is to help you elevate your skill set and your hunting skills for mule deer. And it doesn't matter what skill level you are, a novice, and even if you're an expert, you're probably going to learn something. I even learned something talking to Brian, talking to Guy. There's always little things that you can pick up. And the day that you think you know it all is the day that you're probably declining and handicapping yourself to becoming actually better. And that's the goal, right? Be better and better and better. That's the whole goal with this. Long story short, we do a lot of the hunt strategy section, which is, and this is the cool thing about, you know, the last 10 years and what we do too. It's a bonus part of videoing our hunts, is we can give you the play-by-play live, like on the hunt. And a lot of those on the fly decisions that are hard to make and hard to know what to do until you're there doing it. And so
the thing I like about it is it's not just you guys making, you know, this is why I made that decision, but it's because you're never going to have, rarely would you ever have that situation
same
again.
Scenario. Exactly.
But what it is it taught me and other people how you process information and make decisions. When you're in an audience, you go, oh, yes, I understand why he made that decision, but now I understand how he got there. Point A to point B, point C to a decision. And that's really key. That's really key.
Absolutely.
So what, you're also doing live lectures.
You
know, we're doing some live event stuff, field craft, beyond the black rifle live lecture stuff. We're actually on our way to Salt Lake to the expo in a little while, and we're going to do a live lecture there for the whole Mule Deer Foundation, which is fun. Let me ask you this, and I'm sure you've answered this a billion times, but to date, what's your best hunt you've ever been on?
I thought about that. Well, this last fall, because I killed that big bull.
Yeah,
it's easy to say like that was the best hunt ever. Right. And it was. I mean, it was epic. I hate to use the E word because everybody says, "Oh, this was epic" or "that was epic." But there's a lot of cool scenarios that I've been in my life, and honestly, some of the most enjoyable hunts aren't my own. Probably my favorite hunt ever was with my dad, and he killed that 375 bull up in Montana. He'd never killed a big bull. I think it was his first bull elk.
And he killed a 370?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
And so that was
I feel horrible about myself.
He's a lucky duck. You know what's funny? Because he would always be like, "Hey, guess who has the biggest bull in the family?" And he's just pulling my leg, of course. But like, yeah, my dad, and it's his only bull. And me and my brother are like diehard
until
elk
this
hunters.
year.
So get this. And it's all fun and games between my dad and my brother and I. And my brother, he killed that big bull up in Montana as well in 2020. So like the joke was like, "Oh, Dan, you have the smallest bull in the family." And I'm like, my day will come. I'm not worried about it. And one of the first things I called my dad when I got out, and I said, "Hey, guess who has the smallest bull in the family now?" My dad. Yeah. And he busted a gut laughing because we
now it'll be, but mine was first. But mine was first.
Exactly.
It'll be something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, like I'll be up at his place in Roundup, and he'll be like, "Oh, that's gonna cost you." I'm like, "Well, it's still I still haven't sent you the bill for your big bull from 2020, so you still owe me. So we always banter back and forth.
That's
like that
awesome.
Too. It's fun.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, for my personal hunt, like Hubert in 2013, I was by myself back there, brand new country, just doing the best I could back there. Giant buck.
I haven't seen the footage from your bull, but the footage from Hubert, that episode, I mean, you can just see the pure excitement and joy as you walk up on him and actually put hands on him. And it is not curated. It is not how you act every day. So it is some of the funnest footage we have. It's just absolute joy.
For sure.
Absolute joy.
The elk is the same way. I'm one of those guys. I'm an average guy. Yeah. I work hard at it. I don't think, that I deserve a big animal or whatever. I don't hunt for the biggest animal on the mountain. I hunt for respectable, mature animals. And if you come out with a nice bull or you come out with a super giant bull, whatever, that's fine. That's fine with me. I'm not a head hunter.
Yeah.
But still, I want to challenge myself and kill that, age level bull that's a little older or maybe a little bigger. And it's my own personal goals, right?
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean anything to anybody else. But to me, hunting elk, it's probably my favorite thing to bow hunt for sure. And it's just one of those things because hunting is so funny. It can be dumb luck or it can be absolute skill, how you harvest something,
or it can be just grinding it out, as Brian would say.
Yeah.
Just putting your nose down and suffering through it, for lack of a better term.
You can't predict it.
Yeah.
You never know when it's going to happen. 13-year-old kids can kill a 400-inch bull, just like a 60-year-old man could.
Yeah.
And it's just being out there, and it's one of those things that when I was a kid, and I wrote about this in the latest issue of EBJ actually, with this big bull this year, is when I was a kid or just growing up, you always hear about, the big one that got away and the mistake that somebody made, why the big one got away. And it's like, man, I'm sitting there thinking as a 14-year-old, and I'm like, man, I hope that if I ever encounter like a super monster animal that I don't screw it up, because that would be my worst nightmare. Yeah. That like my absolute worst nightmare. But when you're in the moment, and that's why I do it, I still attribute all those years of bow hunting and practicing. And when I say practicing, going to Hawaii and hunting animals and getting that hunting practice, when it came down to it, the moment of truth, you have a super monster animal in front of you, you're not thinking about how big it is.
Yeah.
It's muscle memory, what you need to do to get a good, perfect arrow in that animal to make a quick, clean kill. And so it was just autopilot.
Which is awesome. That's a huge point. I want you to expand on that. I have done this more than once in my life where I found a huge deer in the desert, and the wheels completely fell off. But 200 yards, broadside, looking at me, I couldn't have had a better shot. And I didn't shoot off sticks. I didn't shoot off a backpack. I just tried to offhand it. That will haunt me the rest of my life. The rest of my life. I can see it like it was yesterday, and it's more than 15 years ago. Almost 20 now.
Yeah.
So expand on that. Because we've talked about this. Why do you go to Hawaii? Why do you do these things how do you build the muscle memory? How do you do that?
Ultimately with hunting, there's only so much that you can do. Like there is a portion of it that it's luck. Yeah. They're like whatever you want to call it, the grace of God or luck, or, it could be either one of those. Not that, I don't deserve a 385 bull.
Yeah.
Nobody deserves anything.
I know. I've hung out with you. You don't.
That's fair. I don't. But what it does is all the repetitions of hunting is you find yourself being in the most ideal situation or the most ideal spot for any given situation that you can possibly be in during any scenario. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's a lot there.
Yeah.
But it builds a subconscious for it, so you don't have to think about it, once you do it a lot. And so all you can do is just be in the best position that you can possibly be in and get all the things in your favor that you can be in, or have them in your favor. But at the end of the day, it's still hunting, and the animal still has to do what it's going to do, which is completely unpredictable. So those times that the big one gets away, you still have to shake your head and say, gosh darn it, I did the best I could. But at the end of the day, hunting is hunting.
Yeah. But this works really for anything. I mean, you could expand this on everything from hunting to a golf swing to fishing to
Yes.
race car driving, whatever you're into. It's about just repetition, constant. And you told me this fall. You said, that's why I go to Hawaii. Tell me, why do you go to Hawaii and shoot 170,000 goats or whatever the hell it is?
Yeah, I haven't missed a year in the last 10 years. And it's turned much more into bow hunting.
I thought you just liked the beach for a long time.
Right. Man, and that's a part of it. It's evolved just like any, time in my life or experience in my life that I've continued to do, like bow hunting. The reasons why you do it might evolve a little bit, but I love the people. I love the atmosphere. It's fun to get away, of course. I love the beach. I love the ocean. Yeah. And it's something that's completely opposite to, what we have here in dusty old dry Wyoming.
Yeah.
And so that's fun too. And then it's the bow hunting and the culture and the friends that I've built over there. So it's gone to, going over to get repetitions to now hunting with buddies and seeing old friends and laughing and enjoying the time out bow hunting with a bow in my hand and walking around or sitting. It just doesn't get old.
Yeah.
And you worry less about, not that you worry about if you're going to kill something, but you think less about the kill now that I've done it so many years, that you think less about it and it's all kind of muscle memory, and what happens and it's all fine and dandy. Some years I go over there and I don't really get any good shots at any good axis deer or big goats, and I'll just have a couple lame 2 years, maybe two trips over. But was it really lame, or was it, really that bad? No, I mean, I went over with my wife and we had a ton of fun, and she might've harvested some things, and I still enjoy just the trip. But other years you might kill 3 30-inch bucks and you just got to laugh because it's just like they all fell in your lap. Yeah. And so it's just something different that you can do in the off season, in the spring or late winter, that challenges you. It's a good getaway, good vacation, and see old friends. It's just kind of become a tradition, I feel like, in my house.
That's awesome. That's really neat. That, you think about it, 10 years, that's a lot of muscle memory. That's a lot of, relationships. You got people over there that have been friends for a third of your life or better. Yeah. And that's awesome.
It's huge. Yeah. It is. And it's like there's so many new experiences. I mean, from diving, fishing, to hunting Big Island sheep, to hunting mouflon, to hunting goats, to pigs in the different habitats. And the only thing I haven't done there is hunted blacktail, if you can imagine that. There's blacktail on the island of Kauai.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I've actually been there.
Blacktail, yeah. You don't really see them. They're up in the mountains up Kokay country, up Waimea Canyon. But other than that, it's like I've got to experience every type of hunting on Hawaii. And that's important to me, to, all the people that you meet along the way and the different hunters, and talk about good hunters. Hawaii is the home of some of the best bow hunters I know. Yeah. And they come over to the mainland and they kill it.
Oh, I bet.
Like literally they're just natural born killers. But once again, they're doing it all the time.
Yeah, all year.
Yeah, all year. So yeah, you're going to be
hundreds of animals a year.
Hundreds. Yeah.
That's awesome. So the audience today, obviously, what's a takeaway, Dan? What's something that you want to share with these guys that you've been thinking about, that's on your mind? Anything. It doesn't have to be hunting related. It could be anything. If it's you said you're a brand new father, or if it's repetitions, or if it's hunting experiences, or if it's whatever.
Yeah, I look at what bow hunting has taught me in life, and how it's taught me to persevere and stick to it and think ahead and plan ahead, and kind of that mindset, applying it to my family and Dean, my little boy. And I've been thinking about it a lot lately, as we kind of talked about it earlier, but raising my boy Dean in an environment and having a childhood where he's going to grow up to be the best man that he can be, and have the best and most productiveness in society, like how my dad raised me. Yeah. And so I think the one
So you're hoping not to have a basement dweller?
Yeah. Yeah.
No offense, Tim.
Exactly. He won't listen to this anyway. There's no way. But yeah, spending time with Dean, spend time with your kids.
Outside.
Take them hunting. Yeah, outside. And don't be afraid to work them.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing that taken away from my childhood is, you always want it to be easier. Society, always wants their children to have it easier than they did.
Right.
It's kind of how it evolves, right?
Yeah.
But then people become soft.
That's right.
And which America's pretty soft,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what's the saying? Good times create soft men create hard times. That's maybe the gist of it.
I think there's another verse in that, but it's 100%.
You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so as much as I want Dean to, live an easy life and have it cush, got to be hard on him.
Yeah.
Crack down on him and discipline him when he needs it, and make sure he has that work ethic that my dad instilled in me and my brother.
Yeah, I remember as a kid thinking, I think my parents just had kids for slaves. And then I look back at it and go, no, they taught us work ethic.
Yeah.
Is what it was. Yeah, I'm sure some of it was, I don't want to do the dishes tonight, but a lot of it was, no, you're going to do the dishes even when you don't want to.
Exactly.
You still have to do it.
And this is nothing that I didn't really see us coming, because you don't know until you're dad. And I'm a stepdad too, to a 12 and he's 13 now, Blake, and Callie, who's 10.
Yeah.
And so I've jumped into, raising a teenager now and, a 10-year-old girl. And so that too, with fighting that with, okay, you're on dishes tonight and you're sweeping.
Yep.
And dealing with the same attitude that I had when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. And it's like, man, you see how kids react and you're like, man, I was just like that. And that's why my dad did this. And so you start to realize the importance of how you were raised, because I've taken it for granted most of my life until you're in the situation again.
Yeah.
And so that's huge.
I remember my parents going, you just wait till you have kids. And I thought, that I won't treat them this way. And 100%, that is so true.
Yeah.
Parenthood has made me the largest hypocrite in the world too.
Yeah.
I'm never going to do that with my kids. Yeah. There was a reason your parents did that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's one of the best ways to grow as a human being.
It is.
And I've heard it. Dave Ramsey says this all the time. He says, parenting or becoming a parent, they will wreck your world in a wonderful way. Mm-hmm. And they absolutely do that.
I think you said that to me, because I came to you at one point and we talked about kids. And I was like, I don't know if I have a great niece and nephew, and to be a dad. And I think at one point you told me that, I think you'd be making a mistake, Dan, if you chose not to have kids for those reasons, because you're going to miss out on things in life that you'll never know existed in the beautiful thing of raising kids.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, we had that conversation.
I think it was over bacon.
It probably was. Yeah.
Bacon and whiskey.
Bacon
I'm
and
pretty
whiskey.
sure.
Exactly. But no, I take that to heart, and it's definitely one of the hardest things I've done is, having a little boy, a little baby, and he's had his fair share of sicknesses and medical complications too, that you build some character.
Yeah. And I don't think it ever goes away.
No.
I really don't. I have friends that are older than me that have, 20-something, 30-something-year-old kids. I have friends that have kids that are in their 40s, and that never goes away. That worry, that constant, it never goes away until you die, which is probably how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It really is. It's built by design.
And there's been times I'm like, what did I just do to myself?
Can we give them back? Is that an option?
I've never had worry like this. And it's, that's a whole nother story.
But 100%.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just the progression of being a dad or being a parent.
Yeah.
Because you have that worry, and, you can't imagine life without them.
Yeah. Or the unknowns. Something happens and you have no idea how to react or how to do it or what to do, or, especially when it comes to medical problems, and you guys have faced some. I mean, if you're a parent, you've faced it. It's never perfect. And that's character building for you, character building for them. And it actually is good for a marriage. It really is.
Yeah.
It grows you closer. You're in the trenches during some of that stuff. So.
Absolutely. And you think like bow hunting's hard, and I was going to say, what's the takeaway here? But, bow hunting teaches you a lot of things that you can apply to everyday life, like patience and perseverance and all this stuff. But being a dad takes that stuff to the next level.
Yeah.
But I truly attribute bow hunting to preparing me for that a little bit, and working on those traits that come naturally.
Giving you perspective.
Yeah. Giving you perspective. Yeah. It's huge. It is. So like, I can't imagine my life going any other way.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So on your deathbed, this is one I ask everybody. On your deathbed, what do you hope you've accomplished, and what will you be thinking about?
Goes back to Dean, of course, my boy. Like, did I raise him right? Is he ready for the world? Hopefully I'm old and he's already in the world by then, and I'll be, proud of him and all that stuff. That's obviously a hope, on my deathbed. As far as like what I left the world, hopefully I leave what I love in the best shape that it possibly can be, which, always, if you're into something, get involved. And I'm speaking of like the Mule Deer Foundation or the Elk Foundation. I'm worried about the future of hunting for my kids. And so hopefully on my deathbed, I can think and say, man, I did everything I could to preserve, the hunting and the type of childhood I had for future generations. I think ultimately that's what would mean a lot to me, and of course the family.
Right.
As well, but
leaving it to them so that your grandkids, which we all pray we get to see them, so your grandkids get to enjoy what Dean and what you and what I all enjoy.
Yeah, grandkids. It's like, man, I haven't even thought that far ahead. I got a 2-year-old still. It's like
my mom said it perfectly the other day. She goes, "You realize we had kids just so we'd have grandkids." Wait. So I'm just a cog in this wheel?
Yeah, you're just used and abused.
That's all right. That's okay. What does the future hold? What do you think?
For
you name it, bow hunting, for our country, for man, for kids. What do you think? What's one of the biggest things that you hope continues, so the future is similar to what it is now? It'll never be the same, but similar.
Yeah, I hope conservation is a huge thing. I hope that people continue, the general public, which I know they will, hunters continue the importance of public hunting, and that's a priority, a huge priority. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge proponent of private property rights, landowner rights. That's a huge part of it too. But I definitely have high hopes for that. It's going to get more expensive, but everything's been getting more expensive lately. Yeah. Call it inflation, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But yeah, that's, I feel strongly about it. As long as we keep conserving and we're all doing our part and fight the politics, I would say. As a public hunter or just an everyday average guy, if you see politics getting into wildlife management, do what you can to fight that, because politics is wildlife management, unfortunately.
It is 100%. And it is unfortunate, but hopefully it's the right politics.
Yes.
And they're listening to the science.
Yeah, absolutely. And when they're not, and we could go on many discussions on, what's not happening with predator management these days, but continuing to fight and, keep that mindset of the Western hunting and conservation model, and how everything has a role in that. Yeah. Everything needs to be managed. Everything needs to be, just treated fairly, for lack of better terms. Not one species is more important than another species when it comes to big game animals.
I had Brandon on here previously, and we talked about conservation, and he said something really interesting about, and the world has taken conservation and morphed it into what is the true definition of preservation. Preservation is where it's like a savings account. You don't ever touch it. It's actually worse than that. It's a fund that you can't ever touch. Conservation is a savings account that you can use and replenish in hopes that it gets bigger and better and maintains, or at least maintains itself, and it's never just sat aside. Preservation and conservation are currently being used synonymously, and it's unfortunate. You're talking about conservation. You're talking about having a resource, managing that resource for the greater good, but never taking it away. You don't ever want to deplenish your savings account,
Yep.
but you never want to just set it aside and never use it either.
Exactly. You're cultivating it. I mean, if you want to get black and white with it, there's a few passages in the Bible.
Yeah.
Acts 10:13. God let down a sheet with all kinds of animals, 4-footed creatures and hooved creature and birds of the air.
Yeah.
And he said, "Get up, Peter, kill and eat."
Yeah.
And so that's huge to me. We're stewards of these animals that are here.
Yep.
And so that's not preservation.
No,
that's conservation. We're cultivating it. How can we make it better? It's a beautiful, renewable resource. And so God instructed us to use it and love it and cherish it and cultivate it.
Yep.
So I firmly believe in that.
Yeah, 100%. It's awesome. We're talking about this right in the middle of show season. We're about to go to Expo. The sheep show is coming up. Mule Deer Foundation's Expo is coming up. So I was just at Dallas Safari Club, and that's what those organizations are about. Mm-hmm. Some of them are about habitat. Some of them are about, hunters' rights. Some of them are about, the greater good. So yeah, get involved. Get involved in that, and know your legislators and know where they stand on that stuff. Yeah, it's a huge part.
For sure, make your voice heard in that stuff too.
But one of the things when I was going through the ranks of getting political and understanding and traveling to DC and meeting with, representatives and senators and stuff, one of the things that just blew my mind is how little they hear from their constituents. Mm-hmm. They hear from big organizations, say, whatever lobbyist group, they hear from them every day. Know those people on a first name basis. But Joe Finicknick that lives in their district almost never hear from those people. So I encourage you, get online, send them emails, call their offices, even if it's their local office or their one in DC. Let those people know you. And if you call them enough, they'll know your name and know who you are and know where you stand. And in the reverse hand, if you become an ally to them, when something happens that is important to you that you've talked to them about or you've been vocal about, they'll reach out to you and go, "What do you know? What have you been hearing?" Because you can't be alone. So that's how the political system's actually supposed to work. And sometimes I know everybody's busy and we get our heads down and butt up and we're just working away, trying to make a living, trying to buy $10 per egg, eggs.
$10 a carton.
Yeah, but do that because it'll help you in the long run, and it'll help you preserve what you are, conserve what you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So, well, I appreciate the time. Thanks for coming in and spending some time with us and sharing the Dan Pickar story and your thoughts and beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.